It really is horrendous. I mean, to be really honest with you, being a doctor going out to do humanitarian work, you don't expect yourself to have to operate and do a caesarean section on a lady that's shot by a sniper in the uterus and take out a dead baby.
And you think this is deliberately, they're not just caught in crossfire?
Absolute deliberate. I mean, we had, for example, every day we would be receiving between 14 to 16 casualties a day, sniper wound, just snipers. And they're all civilians, all children and women. And of those, there was a group, I would say, of the 14 that we had per day, probably 8 or 9 were shot in one particular area of the anatomy. And so there seemed to be a trend going on that some days they were shot in the groin, some days in the chest, some days in the neck and so on. And lots of children were shot in the upper body and shoulder. And also the pregnant women, obviously full-term pregnant, obviously to be easy to be spotted. And these were shot in the abdomen through the uterus, and to operate on those patients was, for a doctor, one of the most distressing things you could ever possibly do.
And the baby's dying?
Well, you know, the mothers were hemorrhaging, so by the time the lady came into the operating theatre, she was shocked. By the time you'd made the incision, by the time you'd spotted where the gunshot had entered, by the time you'd got the uterus out and done the caesarean section, very rarely did any babies survive.
And the mothers?
Some mothers died and some mothers lived. It was just one of those things.
So easy targets, basically, children, women.
Well, it's happening every day, and I worked in a city in the north of Syria, one of the biggest cities, and I was there for 5 weeks. And basically it's people going from one part of the town, city, to the other part to get food and provisions for their family. And they are the ones that are caught in the sniper. And it's just a game, because I am apolitical and I don't carry any political clout at all. But from a humanitarian point of view, all the people were civilians.
Who are these snipers? Which side?
Well, again, I didn't really know. I don't really know, but I would imagine, and I was told many times that it was from the regime side, so presumably it's from the Assad government. But
very, very briefly, you've worked in war zones for over 20 years. How does this compare?
Well, this compares, it's more horrific than any other war zone I've worked in before. Most civilians are caught in crossfire. They're never really caught in direct fire, which is direct fire this time.